This is a sports catastrophe production.
Hello there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another sports catastrophe on this day. And on this day 2 years ago, I know it's very, very recent, but hey, you know what? This is a massive moment. As you can see, there's a ball on the rim in Toronto. Did it go in? Did it go out? Well, before I answer that question, I know you know the answer, but a little bit of background. So, the Toronto Raptors were playing the Philadelphia 76ers in the second round of the 2019 NBA playoffs. The Raptors, who for years had made the playoffs and had failed to win playoff rounds, with only winning one playoff round before 2016 happened, had a bit of a renaissance. Despite the fact that they were the number one seed in 2018 and got their butts handed to them by Cleveland in the second round, Toronto still was a decent team. Toronto came off the firing of Dwayne Casey and the adding of Nick Nurse. However, Toronto basically needed to go all in. So they made one of the biggest trades of all time, sending their star DeMar DeRozan to San Antonio for Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. The Raptors were gambling with this. The jury knew what he was doing, in a sense. The Raptors also added a key showpiece during the trade deadline when they got Marc Gasol from Memphis for Jonas Valanciunas. Another fan favorite. But basically, Toronto was in for the playoffs. Was in for winning the title. So anyway, the Raptors would take on the Orlando Magic and win in 5 games. Traditionally losing game 1 because they were known for losing game 1s. But they lost game 1. No big deal. They swept Orlando in the other 4. Then came Philadelphia, the team that was dealing with the process. That basically they were trying to suck so badly that they would go through the draft and rebuild through there and get the young players. Some people said it was stupid. Some people said it was a smart idea. Some people just don't understand basketball. But anyhow, so the Sixers and Raptors would play each other in this best of 7 series. Both teams were fighting tooth and nail, and just like their previous meeting in 2001, it went down to a Game 7. Now, the 2001 Game 7 between the Raptors and Sixers was famous for a lot of reasons. One major reason was Vince Carter deciding to go to his commencement ceremony at the University of North Carolina. Their thing was at 11 o'clock. Thankfully, though, Carter was allowed to leave after getting his diploma. And then basically a couple hours later, he flew back from North Carolina to Philly in time for the Raptors to play the Sixers. Thankfully, though, the game was at 5:30 Eastern Time on a Sunday. So basically, Carter could do both events. Of course, the Raptors were in a tight spot with the Sixers. Vince Carter was going to take the last shot to try to send the Raptors to the Eastern Finals. And what happens? The ball bounces off the rim and does not go in. Sixers go to the Eastern Finals and will go on to play the LA Lakers in the final, which they got squashed in 5 games by the Lakers. So a lot of people will say, what if the Raptors had beaten the Sixers? Would they have taken Milwaukee down? Probably. They probably would have taken the Bucks. And then the Raptors would have went to the finals against the Lakers. Probably lost, but a loss. At least make the finals. No big deal. So anyway, the Toronto Raptors had a lot of problems. People blame Carter for skipping out on practices and all that because of this whole North Carolina thing. But basically, he was true to his word to his mom. And unfortunately, after 2001, Carter went downhill with the Raptors fast, and they ended up training in New Jersey in that lopsided deal. So anyway, Vince Carter was in everyone's mind. But anyway, Raptors and Sixers were tied at 90, and Kawhi Leonard was ready to go and all that. So he took a couple of dribbles. I don't want to get in trouble for playing the audio of the famous call. YouTube gets a little picky sometimes. But anyhow, he picks it up and then he goes to near the corner and shoots a shot. Bonk, 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 bonk. Swish! What? He scores. A lot of people remember famous calls and all that. I know that Mike Devlin's call for Sportsnet was not that good, but anyway. But that was compared to Kevin Harlan for TNT. Game, series, journalist won. And so amazingly, 18 years later, the shot went off the rim and it finally bounced through, and the Raptors got to the conference finals. I would tell you about like how Toronto did after this game, but because obviously there's going to be one day in June that I'm going to do something about the Raptors. Spoiler alert. I'll tell you about that later. But actually, I'll tell you this now, and not in the other video. That will be next month. Truth be told, this actually started out as one of the best things that happened to me in my life. Now, before this shot, I was still unemployed, chronically unemployed for 4 years. Never getting anywhere and all that. I was facing the prospect of not having a job for a long time. But then, strangely enough, after the Kawhi Leonard win for the Raptors against the Sixers, next day, a phone call comes in. It's my job agent. It's a job agency that's trying to help me, saying, hey, you know what? We have this person who's looking for a job at Sheridan Nurseries. Would you like to be in it? And I said, well, I have balked in the past about a garden center because it's like, what use could I be by the garden center? So I'm like, why not? I'll try anything. So I did, and then I went for the interview the next day. So anyway, I went through an interview process. I wowed them, and they said, well, we can only give you Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 3. And I said, well, 10 hours is better than 0. So I put pen down to paper and said, hey, I'll come in. And then all of a freaking sudden, the Raptors were playing things. Now, the funny thing is that the Raptors would have a 0-2 conference finals thing against the Bucks, but that was before a famous game 3, and then 2 days later, me starting my job. So basically, that was something amazing. And the Raptors, when I worked, only dropped 2 games in the playoffs after I came in. But they weren't the 2 games you were thinking about. Not to the Bucks, anyway. So, yeah. That's what happened. And then, my good luck parlayed itself into a stint at Shoppers Drug Mart, and now Canadian Tire. So, weird how that actually sparked something. Mind blown. So, anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Jeff Diamond. Ado.